meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business is the town administrator report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First item is recognition of a retiring town employee, Irene Young, who has an extraordinary record of service to the town. 53 years, with 40 years with the library and 13 years, I believe, with the police department.
School department.
School department, okay.
Narragansett High School.
Okay. It is an extraordinary, in all my years, I don't know of anyone who has served in municipal government for that many years, and certainly she is the assistant librarian, retiring today.
Yes.
Yes.
Especially today.
And so I know the board likes to bring employees into the room who have extraordinarily long service, and just to offer them direct congratulations for their work for the town. So,
Irene, thank you. Your dedication is amazing, given all the things that the town has gone through over all these many years, and the fact that you stayed in this long is a tribute.
Especially the library. It's been threatened many a time through those years. But we persevered, and with the help of the people, townspeople, we stayed open.
Yes, well, we met recently with the trustees, and I think you have a very good group of people there that really want to see the library get better and prosper.
Yes, it needs to. It's going to be part of this community and the schools and the churches and anything to do with education. We need this library to process and progress into
We
the
do.
future.
Yeah, and while we need, the library to improve, it's a very great facility now, and, your service and input has probably been in part, got it to where it is, and, it's a good, it's a good part of our community, and thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Irene, for everything.
But do you know why I'm here? Did Alicia explain anything to you of why? I'm not coming here for the recognition. There's a reason why I'm here. There was a reason why I talked with Alicia. When
I probably wasn't in the office when,
No, I was.
I know you were here
Yeah.
with an exit interview.
With that paper that she uses for human resource.
Yes.
And when I came here, I've never met Alicia. I didn't even know what her position was. I didn't even know why I was supposed to come. I was just, Mrs. Prime, Jacqueline Prime, said I was to see her. And so I called, left a message, and then I said, well, since I'm going to be here for my retirement, I might as well stop in and see Alicia. And then I found out she was human resource, and what she was going to, she was going to ask questions about how I found work and the support of the town and so forth from this paperwork that she had. And everything was going fine. I loved my job. I loved the library, and I loved the people that I worked with that were my superiors, so to speak. Jacqueline as my director. Mrs. Henshaw was she wasn't called the director, she was the librarian. So with Mrs. Henshaw, I was 16 and a half years as the assistant librarian for 16 and a half years. And I had the responsibilities of the adult side, book ordering, doing everything to keep that adult side going. I have records up here in my folder, which my folder from the office here was really pitiful when I found out after 40 years, I only had 2 pieces of paper in there, in my folder. 2 pieces of paper. So I've got paperwork here that I kept a file on myself. And I have the DVD of Boynton Library with Mr. George Pushy, who was our chairman of the, I'm nervous about this, but anyways, he was our chairperson. And on this DVD, when I was hired, the intro on it by Mr. Pushy was, and Irene Young is our assistant librarian. He said Mildred Henshaw, and then he said, and Irene Young is our assistant librarian. I have a program here from back then saying assistant librarian. When Mrs. Henshaw left and Mrs. Prime came on board, it was probably maybe 4 or 5 years after, there was an evaluation that was put out for all the employees of the town, whether it be Bud Chase or anyone that was working for the town, part-time and full-time. And somehow, my title got taken away from me without me knowing. No discussion. My evaluation, instead, I don't know if she just didn't hear it right or what, but it went from assistant librarian to library assistant. And I didn't know about this. I didn't know about this for a long time, and the way I found out was when they had employee performance evaluations being done. And I looked to see where my job title, and I spotted it. And I said, whoa, after all these years, I've had the responsibility as the assistant librarian. All the responsibility that goes with it. And I said, I'm not just there to assist, to just be there to help the library. So I spoke to Mrs. Prime about it. And she, when I told her what I think happened, well, she was sort of upset about it also. So in 2010, Mrs. Prime, because we discussed it, and she supported me 100%. I can't say enough about Mrs. Prime. She's always been such a good person and to work for. And her letter. Oh, in the job description in the book, when Mrs. Skelton was here and Jerry Skelton, I looked up in their book, and the job description was in there. Boynton Public Library job description, assistant director. So it wasn't something that was not there. And I think I have the letter here. Mrs. Prime had written. Nope, looks like I don't have the letter. Oh yes, I do. I had to gather this quickly because I have 2 files on myself out of the 40 years, and I had to get things that I thought was important and correlate it together. Mrs. Prime wrote during 2010, she said, Irene Young presently works at the Boynton Library. When she was hired almost 30 years ago, it was for the position of assistant librarian, the direct subordinate of their librarian, Mildred Henshaw. Mrs. Henshaw retired in 1995, and as a result of state regulations, the position of librarian was reclassified as director. with myself being hired to fill that position. With the implementation of the personnel policy, this is when my title changed, with the personnel policy, that this person switched it. Both Irene and Kathy Matson, who was hired as a library aide, were classified as a library assistant, while Kathy's duties fall within the definition of library assistant. Irene's really do not. She was originally given more responsibility than the library aide years ago, and still bears that responsibility today. She is a critical part of the collection development and acts in my place when I am not at the library in many different capacities. The scope of Irene's job is beyond that of a library assistant, and she and I both would like for her to have the rightful title of assistant director. She is not requesting, nor will request any increase in her grade, her step, or her rate pay related to this change, but simply wants her original title, years of service, and scope of responsibilities to be recognized in this title. When Irene chose to retire, or chooses to retire, we can certainly revisit the structure of the position at the library prior to hiring anyone. I am sorry I'm unable to attend this meeting this evening. If you have any questions to this matter, I would be happy to answer them. We got a response to that from Mrs. Prime's letter, dated June 10, 2011. Memo to Jackie Prime, Director, Boynton Public Library, from Personnel Board. Subject, Assistant Director position. The Personnel Board, at its meeting on June 1st, 2011, discussed your request to have Irene Young's title restored to Assistant Director with no change in pay. I agreed to that. It wasn't the money. You know it wouldn't be the money. Not for the hours and the years that I have served. That isn't what I was there for. 2000, to discuss the request to have Irene Young's to be restored, the title. The board is taking your request under advisement. The Selectmen's office will look into this matter and advise the personnel board of its results. We never got the results. We never heard anything. It's like I didn't even exist. And that hurts. But I didn't go further with it, and I asked Jackie Prime, don't go further with it. I said, there's too much in-house fighting between the personnel board and the, help me out here, because I'm getting a little emotional here, Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen and the Personnel Board. I said, don't go any further with it. My job is more important to me than the title. I said, I don't want to lose my job. I want to stay here. And I kept working for many years that way. But I knew when I retired, I said, I'm going to at least try to fight for it. Just the title. Just to be recognized what I did and loved every moment of it. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. We have a motion to restore Mrs. Henshaw's title to Assistant Library Director.
I make a motion to restore Irene Young's title to Assistant Director. It would be Director, correct?
Yes.
Assistant Director.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion?
Not
Hearing-
for me.
Hearing none. Diane?
Yes?
Doug?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I'll vote yes, that's unanimous. Consider it done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time, and we apologize for anything that might have been
Well, that's why I felt...
miscommunicated years back. You are certainly recognized by the board.
Thank you. And that's why I approached you.
Yeah.
Because I don't know you, you don't really know me, and yet the facts are here, and I felt I had a fair chance.
We have something we'd like to give you. It's a token. This is from the board, and this is a token of our appreciation to you for all the service you've done to the town.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
you.
You've made my retirement worthwhile now. It's like I'm completed. I've completed that. There was a little part missing, and now you completed it, and thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Am I able to leave?
Yes, you are.
I haven't had anything to eat yet for supper.
Well, a person has to have their priorities. Don't miss meals.
I don't want you to find me on the floor. All right,
right.
thank you so much.
Have a good
All
night.
right, you
Thank
too.
you very
Good
much.
night. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
2017 budget.
2017 budget, yes, 480 lines long in a spreadsheet. Just a couple of new items. I've tried to make this an omnibus budget to include not only general fund departments and spending in the general fund, but also at the very end of the budget, numbers not included in the bottom line, are those operations that are off budget, that are not part of the general fund. Some numbers are missing, as you'll see, and I expect the missing numbers will be filled in when we get the financial records squared away. Because even when you look on the state website, those numbers are not in Schedule A for 2014 and so forth. But anyway, this is the start at least. We have the ambulance fund, those items that are funded from the ambulance reserve for receipts. Community preservation fund, we track what we've done with community preservation. The revolving funds, which are also part of the town's spending program, and the sewer budget. So unfortunately, we had some trouble with the printer today, and when it finally was working properly, you'll see that in some instances, it mixed the color of the paper from this beige to white, but the numbers are correct. We start with the revenue. I'll just go through it quickly. You can see the revenue numbers. First of all, starting with the tax levy and the debt exclusions. We have lost some funds from debt exclusions in the last couple of years, and that's because the first $550,000 borrowing, or actually it was a debt authorization for schematic design of the school, has been paid off. And so we can't raise that money anymore to service that loan. We are about to consume the other $500,000 and pay that off as well. And we are getting the MSBA reimbursements in a timely way at this point. As I mentioned to you in an email earlier today, one problem with that first loan in 2010 is that debt was never issued on that loan. And so with the reimbursements of 62%, the town apparently just took funds that were available. In effect, funds that would be otherwise certified as free cash, and paid down that debt, extinguished that debt. That's one way to do it. There's nothing illegal about that. However, those funds have been spent. They would ordinarily have been certified as free cash when we get free cash certified. So just keep that in mind. We have healthy revenue growth in the new year, in part because the town economy is growing modestly again. As you can see on the chart here, we had $99,000 in new growth last year, which will expand the tax base for the current year without raising the tax rate. So state aid, we anticipate that that will go up modestly. The state economy is doing reasonably well, and I tried to pick out an average number for increasing state aid, in particular the general government aid that we use as general revenue here. Local receipts also doing very well. We are not using free cash in the budget next year. We are not using any of the overlay surplus either. And some other items, as you can see down at the bottom of the top page chart, you can see some of those items where we subtract from the new revenue. One of those items that I'll call your attention to is OPEB. We have begun the schedule for funding of OPEB. We put $64,608 aside at the fall town meeting in the Selectmen's budget, which we will transfer at the annual town meeting into the official OPEB fund, which we have to create in January. And then, as you can see, I'm suggesting that we take another 65 in fiscal 17 and put that aside to continue the funding program for OPEB. As far as the budget, I have a summary. This works better if you have the electronic copy, which I'll send to you. The other thing is, this budget will evolve. We don't know the governor's local aid numbers. We don't really know what Worcester County retirement is going to be next year. We don't know for sure what our general insurance costs will be, what our health insurance costs will be, and so as those numbers become available in January, this budget will evolve. And at some point, the Selectmen, and I'll make some recommendations, will have to make some decisions based upon the money that we have available, new money, and any priorities that you have. I have a separate sheet of new initiatives. I've asked all the departments to list any new initiatives in a separate sheet. Actually, it's on the separate worksheet, and I would have a list of them, and we would eventually get to that sometime, probably in January, maybe early February, depending upon the bottom line number of money that we have available and whatever the priorities are. Spend it, not spend it, whatever. What we have here that you see, I would call a current services budget. This is a budget that has no increases other than fixed costs, costs that we can't control. Namely, I factored in an allowance for insurance, Worcester County retirement, other costs that we can't control. We have contracts with some employees, and so forth. So I factored that in, but other than that, any request for anything additional was put on the separate sheet. Let me see if there's highlights, other highlights to mention here. I think it's this right now is a fairly conservative budget, and certainly attempts to do what we need to do to keep our departments going, but also attempting to avoid any future financial troubles by getting too deeply into spending. As you can see, I've combined the building inspector and the Board of Health into an inspectional services department. They are together now. Their expense budget is the same. They have the same staff person. So I've just renamed that tentatively without having passed it by you, but if you want to change it back, we can do that. I've also renamed dispatch from communications. We've changed communications. Actually, we transformed the communications operation, and now the dispatch operation is under the chief of police, and so that's a more apt name than what we had before. What I did not do, and what I would recommend that we do, hope that we do, is that we should, when we get down to adding money back, we should raise the snow and ice budget, I think, maybe 25,000, and get into a pattern of gradually increasing that so that, you know, we don't know what kind of winter we're going to have, but we're at a point right now where $125,000 is just unrealistic, and it needs to be gradually increased. As you can see, veteran services continues to go up. We have returning veterans. Many are in need of the benefits, and so that budget continues to go up. The plus side of that is that we get 3/4 of it returned as reimbursement from the state. So, the Recreation Commission budget, you can see, you know, I think we'll probably take a more careful look at that for some additional funding. I did factor in an expected increase for the regional schools system to try and, you know, discount the budget for that right off the top, because clearly there's going to be increases in both of those budget, Monty Tech and the Narragansett regional system. And then we have a couple of warrant article appropriations, which I've put there at the bottom of the budget. Tried to reduce the warrant article appropriations to a bare minimum so that it can be confusing when you're voting money in the warrant and you've got money in your budget and so forth. So there's one final, and as you can see what the bottom line number is right now, how much money we have. There is a very important additional item. You can see that right now it looks like we have $55,000 in additional money after this exercise, and requests for $212,000 from departments. You know, again, doubtful that we'll fund all that, but nevertheless, that represents the number of requests versus what we have. There is a very important item that we have not completely settled with the Department of Revenue, and that is the $175,000 that the town brought in from the sale of 252 Baldwinville Road. I think we discussed earlier that when you sell town property and when there's a debt on that property, you must earmark that money that you get, the proceeds, must be earmarked to reduce the debt. That is our intention. And if the Department of Revenue actually recommended that we do it that. They said you have to do that. We haven't gotten that far yet, so you don't see that 175 listed here as debt reduction. But what will happen is we need one more phone call with the Springfield representative. Tried to reach her the last few days, but haven't been able to. And Kelly has tried the same. One more phone call, and I think then we can go ahead, set up a separate account for that money, and pay down that debt, which will reduce our debt service by that amount. And so we will have significantly more funds available for whatever the Board of Selectmen decide makes sense, whether we want to do some spending, put more money into OPEB, move more money into stabilization, whatever we decide to do in January or early February. I think we'll have this additional money. We don't have it now. We need to do a few more discussions with the DOR on that process and to make sure that they're willing to go along with it, because it's a chunk of money, and I don't want to hear from them next fall or whenever that, oh, we won't allow that. You know, they recommended it, so I just want to be absolutely certain that we're on the same page with them when we do it. So that'll reduce that. Our total debt service this year goes from $1,270,000 down to $1,249,000. It's a modest reduction. You can add in there the additional 175. One of the questions is that the DOR could not answer when I posed the question a week ago, and that is the amount of debt service that we pay on the 252 Baldwinville Road debt, which was $700,000, is $143,000 a year. In 17, we can take that money and pay 143, but we have 175. Can that money be used to pay down other debt? And they said, we don't know, we'll have to get back to you. So that's another discussion we have to have on the proper way to handle this. Does it have to go exclusively for debt service for the 252 Baldwinville Road property, or can we use the remainder to pay down other debt? There's also another matter that needs to be clarified. On the debt schedule, the official debt schedule that I have from the bank, it says that the debt on 252 Baldwinville Road is discharged in 2017. We have another official document from the bank that says it's not completed in 17, it's completed in 19. I got to clarify that. It's not just government that makes mistakes. We found other mistakes as well in reviewing the information that we have received from First Southwest Bank. When we pay debt on loans from the state for water improvements, they give you a subsidy. And I'm looking at the debt service for the next year, rather than subtracting the subsidy from the total debt service. I don't want to get too arcane here. They added it. So I called them up and said, that number is not right, I hope. She said, let's check it. So she said, the formula was wrong. It was wrong last year as well. So it looked like our debt was our debt service was $148,000 higher than it actually is, when in fact it's $148,000 lower than it's listed on their paper. So we need to clarify some of the issues surrounding that 175, and I think that will have an impact. I'm almost certain that'll have a very positive impact on funds available by reducing the actual debt service that we have for the coming year.
One question, which
Yes.
if we've got 175, and the
Yeah.
payment's 143.
Yes.
Can we take that balance and reduce the principal?
Well, that's what I'd like. Well, yes, we can do that. But we have to clarify whether or not the debt is discharged in 17 or whether it goes to 19. And those are documents that we get directly from the bank. We don't get those. We don't create those ourselves.
Well, I mean, if in fact it is 19,
Yes.
I would think
Then
that
we
would
could
make
reduce the
sense to
principal,
do,
yes.
yeah.
DOR said that can be done.
Yeah.
But until today, I was on the impression that we could pay 143 and that the remainder would have to be either held in reserve for the following year or used to pay the principal. When I looked there and I said, I didn't see that there was principal in the following year. So my question to the DOR was, can I take that remainder amount and use it to cover other debt? And they said, we don't know. We have to check that and we'll get back to you. That's moot now, if in fact the debt service on that property runs until 2019.
But if it runs to 2019 and we reduce the principal,
Yep.
then our payment in
Then
the
we're-
last 2 years
Correct.
is
Oh,
going
yeah.
to be less.
That's the way to do it, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, no, I think, yeah, that's exactly what we would propose to do once we get firm information from our bank on our debt schedule. So, there you are. This is the first draft. I would anticipate that we could start making serious decisions right after we get the governor's budget
Yeah.
and see what by that time we will have Worcester County, we'll have, it'll be past the MMA, we'll have some idea of where we are with health insurance
Yeah.
and general insurance.
The governor's budget usually comes out around the 1st of February.
Yeah. Okay, so just run through the other items. The tax rate is set. Tax bills will be out on time. The tax rate is $16.47, 17 cents lower than last year. The street light at the edge of the parking lot for safety is going to be installed. The Abrahams Group has been at Town Hall providing assistance every day in putting the financial records for fiscal 2013 in order. They're going to have audits right after. We hope we're going to have the audits close to the date when the records are in order. The 4 Elm Street project is moving forward. I think we need some advice and general discussion. Holly and I were out there today to take a look, and we have some issues. One would be, do we want the park area to be towards the rear of the lot and have the parking closer to the street? Or do we want to put parking in the back and have the park area closer to the street? Close to the street, you have some street noise. You also have that, there's a retaining wall there, and where they're putting up a fence for safety. The view there over the wall is not nearly as attractive as it would be if we had the park area, the green space, towards the rear of the lot, and remove the brush and access to the river, and put a small 4-foot fence somewhere along the river to prevent children from going in. We seem to think that that works best. Also, there is a right-of-way for the sewer department, so we have to retain 1 lane from the street all the way back to the gate. We would narrow that lane. Right now, it's fairly wide. And as Marty pointed out to us, the neighbor next door today, the Army Corps of Engineers is also going to have an interest. So we have to talk with them. I can't think that they would possibly oppose putting grass, pervious grass, in place of blacktop. I mean, I think their whole direction is don't blacktop near water, bodies of water, because it, increases flooding. So I think they'll approve, but we learned today that we're going to have to be involved with them as well as the Conservation Commission and the Community Preservation Committee, which is paying the bills here, to get this project completed. But what I would ask the selectmen to do is take a look at the layout and tell us what you think makes sense. And the big issue is we probably have to have room for cars because it's a busy street, and having people park their car across the street at the fire station, which would be some parking available, and then walk across the street, particularly with kids, I think would not be as safe as allowing some limited parking on that lot. And question is up front or to the rear. So
I've had several conversations with some people, including Alan Mayo, and I would like to see us take a look at Riverfront Park in Orange, which is kind of a similar type of situation, and maybe see if we can do what they've done there with their park, which would increase the, use it in a good manner that's going to bring people in for constructive activities, and also help the businesses along the way there, the restaurants.
Oh, I think when we create that park, in the warm months, you're going to see people buying sandwiches across the street and going over there. And we had some benches and so forth, picnic tables maybe. People would use that.
Yeah, we should try and schedule like a Saturday morning, trip out there.
Take a look, and
Yeah.
right now, the next steps are going to be take up the pavement. And we're probably not going to get much else done until the season, until the weather breaks in the spring. So there's plenty of time to chew this over.
We're going to have winter this year?
It was warm last year at this time.
Yeah.
Also, take a look at Scout Hall. The screens that were on the windows in this building have been relocated down there. bypassing the whole problem of whether to have boarding and securing from the inside or the outside, and I think they're very attractive and they provide the protection that we want. The windows, the new windows have the old windows have been replaced in this building, in the health and building offices, and in the conservation office and the planning office, and they're working today in the clerk's office and the assessor's office. You should walk into one of those offices with the windows. It's very tight, no drafts, and I have to think it is going to be, once we get the whole project done, significant energy savings for the building. We won't be able to complete the project this year. We don't have the money, but we'll get those 3 offices done, which really had the poorest quality windows. And then next year, if we get more of the funds that we used this year, we can complete the project with new windows.
And Chartier's doing the work, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
the ones on the back of the building, they look very nice. I mean, they're doing a
They look nice as
beautiful
well.
job.
They look nice, they're tight, and certainly in terms of the problem we had last year with our employees sitting there with their hair blowing in the wind when the windows were closed, I think that problem has been remedied.
Your employees were very happy this morning when I happened to tour both offices.
Yes.
They are very pleased with the work.
Yes. That's all that I have.
And how are the auditors doing? Are we on pace, on schedule?
They are not working yet. They have to get the signal.
But I should have said the Abrams people.
Yes, they're working, yes, they're working every day. And I got a message this morning that they're making very significant progress, and that 13 is about to be wrapped up, and they're going to move into 14, so.
All right.
Okay,
Okay, so, since we did mention that, Marty, you have anything you want to add about the 4 Elm Street project, seeing how you're in a butter?
No, it looks pretty good. All he mentioned to me today about somebody coming in, I don't know who you were talking about. Were you talking about the contractor?
To take the tire up?
Ray?
Yep.
Yep.
take out the
Okay.
blacktop, yeah.
And she pointed out that there's deficiency, things that need to be removed,
Right.
and things, and I am more than willing to, because I will be there right up until the 24th, because I am on vacation from the highway department, and I'm more than gladly help. I've been helping them all along. They almost got shut down from the fire department from dust, and I provided them hose to water it down, because it was quite dusty. And anything else that they needed to hurry up and get it done, and everything else, and I don't want anything for it, just willing to help. Because it looks a lot nicer now. And everything, you
Yeah,
know.
I think it can be a real plus to the town once we get a design and get the thing fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it opened up my business, son's business, I should say,
Yeah.
my garage.
yeah.
And he can, now I gotta make improvements on my part, thank you.
You're welcome.
Which is minor, but, yeah, it's going well, and I don't mind, as an abutter, helping out with any of it whatsoever. I've got a lot of knowledge, because you know that, John, I've been in town all my life, and things like that, so.
As an abutter and a business owner, do you have any issues with it being a public park?
No, none whatsoever. It won't infringe anywhere with our issue, garage repair works. Other than hopefully they don't find a little bit of air gun noises and hammering and things like that. But its direction is more towards the street than it is into the back.
Yeah.
We do have side windows and things like that.
All right.
Other than that, it shouldn't be any, I don't see any problem with it. And, my son knows pretty much what's going on, and he's fine with it. He didn't have any issues or any concerns. the officials can't be there all the time
That's good.
to do, so, I know the contractors and, not a problem.
Okay, let's go on to appointments. We have Melanie Hall as poll worker through June 30th, 16. Correct?
Carol Harris I make a motion for Melanie Hall to be appointed as poll worker ending June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I vote yes. That's unanimous. We have class 2 and 3 licenses. Didn't we go through these last meeting? Are we all set with those?
No, we have a lot of people that, for lack of a better term, didn't bother to come in by the 30th like they were supposed to. So I had to contact them, and this is the second batch of people.
Okay.
And on that note, Chief Bennett had mentioned to me that he thought we should have a fine for class 2 and 3 people that don't get their licenses and fee in by the 30th, especially where they're supposed to schedule something with him to have him look over their books and do an inspection. And I agree with that. We sent out a letter in early November, and they have every opportunity to get in here and get everything done, and a lot of them just don't bother coming after.
All right, so for the sake of discussion here, is it the chief is responsible for doing an inspection before the license is renewed? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, for class 2 and 3 licenses. He
Yeah.
basically inspects the books, isn't that about what we
Yeah.
discovered after looking at the laws?
Well, no. Basically, it is your responsibility to look over the books. However, you have the right to appoint someone on your behalf to do that. And apparently, that was bestowed upon the chief of police way back when, because the chief of police has technically no legal responsibility over these books. It is not a criminal issue. It is not a police matter. However, I have no problem doing it, and next year we have spoken about how we're gonna go forward to make it an easier process for the businessmen to come in. There's gonna be 2 dates set up to where they can actually just come in, bring in their books, and I will sign them off on it. Because technically for premise inspection should actually go to the Board of Health or the business, or the building inspector, because it's an OSHA issue, not a legal matter.
So are you saying, Chief, that are you not the most appropriate person to be appointed?
Well,
I mean, because if that's the case, then perhaps we should change it. Just because we've been doing something for 20,000 years doesn't mean that we should keep it that
I
way.
think government was so small back in the day that who else were you gonna stick that on?
Well, it also said in the laws that in most towns, they do have the chief of police do it.
I've spoken to
You don't wanna
every
say
chief
that
in
part.
Central Mass, and not one does it. So.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think that for next year's licenses, I think that we have to look at developing
Yeah.
a policy for how we're going to issue licenses and what the conditions of renewing that license are going to be. Quite honestly,
We already
I'm...
have policies for that.
What's that?
We already have policies for that.
Policies in place, John.
We have or we haven't?
We
We
have,
already
they
have
do.
We have-
policies.
They have a policy in place, it's just
they're not following policy right now.
who should be the proper inspector of,
Well, I think that's something, again, that we have to... We have to look at that, and if you're saying that there's somebody more appropriate to do that, then let's look at the whole process and see what we can do, make it easier for everybody.
Could you send us those policies and then we can talk about it? Can you put it on the next agenda? I mean, it can't be, can we put it on the next agenda?
Mhm.
And we can take a look at that? Do you have any recommendation, Chief?
But
Besides the
before us
Board of
tonight,
Health?
are you saying that there are some licenses that we have to look at that
Yeah,
were
there's
not
quite a
done?
few.
Yeah, look at them. I think we have a concern. It's quite a few. If there was supposed to be another 3.
And I wrote up on each one of them, you know, what the situation is. so.
So, are we, just looking at, we're all set with all of these, everybody's in compliance?
No.
And,
No.
No.
What am I missing?
Can you remind me again for, okay, I'm gonna draw a complete blank here. When we voted licenses, who came in and we voted it pending his taxes be paid?
Oh, I can refresh your memory on that. It was
Can you just give
Mike
me the
Ferris.
name because I'm drawing a
Mike
blank?
Ferris,
Thank you.
Templeton Auto Parts.
So that, he only had not paid his taxes, but all the other documentation was in?
Correct.
Okay, so I would not do anything for the Templeton Country Store at the moment. If it was just being current on his taxes, that would be, so we have to kind of be the same across the board? I mean, he's not brought in a check and not picked up the paperwork, so I would not vote to approve that where there's been nothing done. That's just my recommendation on that. I mean, if, again, waiting for compliance with paying taxes, if the, okay, that's one thing. All set.
There's one that doesn't have a bond and never
Okay,
has.
then, really hate to do voting, where key pieces are not done, especially, like I said, a bond, if you add the paperwork, and again, we've been voting, you know, subject to taxes, I think that's one thing, but the rest of that,
The only thing about not voting for class 2 and 3 is we'll have to notify the registry and actually have someone go take their license away on the 1st,
well,
or close them down, basically, which would probably be the building inspector, I
does
believe.
everybody really not realize when they should be doing this, or, I mean,
They
okay,
know.
all of these have been in business for as long as I can remember.
It's the same thing every year.
None of
it's the
these
same
people are
time
new.
every year.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe if they get their
Well,
license
maybe,
taken away,
I'm
then
not,
they'll
I'm
expect
not,
to let you
again, I
know
don't wanna
what will
shut
happen.
people down, but I don't wanna say, oh, okay, so we're gonna vote, you have to bring in your check, you have to bring in your paperwork, you have to, I'm not willing to do that. If someone else wants to make a motion, that's fine, I'm just gonna flat out state, I won't do that. So, but the rest of them that are all set and in compliance, and like JL Auto Parts, they're only waiting to pay their taxes, I have no problem with that one. I mean, in late fees, we don't currently assess late fees.
No, we don't have any policy.
Okay, so every other license that I've ever had to obtain, if I do not do it in time, I either lose it or I have to pay. I cannot practice, I cannot. So I'm surprised that we don't have late fees. I'm shocked about that, so, I mean, this year, I don't really think it's fair to say, you know, okay,
No,
well,
no,
in
I
addition to
mean
that,
for
but
next
going
year,
forward, so if
yeah.
you send us the policies, then we can say, okay, so, let me just peek at this for a second, and then I'll.
Could we have a motion to approve the ones that there are no problems with?
So, yeah, I'd like to come back to that one, no, to this one. So, I make a motion to approve common victualers licenses for the country mischief.
I'll second that.
All right, so Country Mischief, you've gotten all the documents and taxes have been paid, that's correct? We have a motion on the floor to approve that one, and I believe we have a second over here. Any discussion on Country Mischief? Hearing none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
yes,
Julie?
Yes.
I will abstain, that's 3 in favor, 1 abstention, it passes.
I make a motion to approve a Class 3 license for MBW Salvage and to approve JL Auto Parts, subject to payment of taxes before the license is given.
we have a second on that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Can I just clarify something here? For JL Auto Parts, it says paying taxes to date. They are allowed by law to be 1 year behind?
Yes.
Okay, so we saying to date?
To date means,
To the,
Up
okay,
to
thank
when
you.
they legally
Okay,
have to,
sorry,
yeah.
that was my discussion.
All right, any other further discussion on the Class 2 licenses, Class 3 licenses, excuse me? So we have a motion, we have a second. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I will vote yes, that is unanimous. All right, let's go to the Class 2 licenses.
I'll make a motion to approve Bill's Used Cars license, Class 2 license.
Can we expand the motion to include all the ones where there's no question?
And Fletcher Equipment Company,
DPW.
MB&W Salvage, Wilson
And
Bus
Wilson Bus.
Lines,
All right.
and that's it, I believe.
All right, so we have a motion for Bill's Used Cars, Fletcher Equipment, MBW, and Wilson. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve those licenses. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
I will vote yes, that's unanimous. Now, let's look at Frank's Truck and Equipment Sales. We're saying he did not provide a bond as required by Mass General Law. Is there any other issue outstanding here?
Holly, he has all his paperwork in, and the taxes are paid up to date and all that. This is it.
yes.
It's just the bond.
So what's your pleasure here? Do you want to approve pending getting the bond? Or-
Are you talking to me?
I think so.
Yeah, I
would
think we
make that
should.
motion.
He's had it for years.
Yeah.
He does know he has to get the bond. I'm
Alright.
assuming he's working on it.
Yeah, all right. So Doug has made a motion. Do we have a second?
When was the last time you asked him about this?
When he came in, it was probably a couple weeks ago.
Okay, second.
All right, moved and seconded to approve Frank's Truck and Equipment pending